What's up, fiends? Lucard here. Today we have a very special guest on the very first episode of the Collector's Crypt. Today we are joined by Mr. Peter Melancon, filmmaker extraordinaire.
Hey,
How's
what's
it
up,
going,
man?
Peter? How's it
How
going,
you
man?
doing? Good,
Good,
good.
good. Nice to see you.
Yeah, you too.
What you been up to?
Working on a film for 2 years with this COVID. Still moving it along, still moving it along. Slowly but surely, I'm getting there.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
hoping to finish filming in October. I was filming piece by piece with COVID, but it's got to a point where literally I told my lead actress, I said, like, how you doing with this stuff up there in New York? She's in New York City. And I said, how are you doing up there in New York? She's like, well, we had to push things back and I had to shift things around because of all of this. So I was like, so you're not going to be able to shoot probably in like March where I originally wanted to shoot. She's like, probably not with all this stuff going on. I was like, okay, I'm shooting in October, first weekend in October. I said, fuck it. We're shooting the whole damn thing. I want this over with. I want to get this done with. And she's like, oh, that sounds great. I'm like, yes, it does. I'll be happy at this point. Like, I feel like movies in general, if you make films, is like everybody's Ahab. Everybody has the film is the whale. You just want to get the project done, but you want to get it done as best as possible. And sometimes something's got to give. That's always the code for the filmmaker. So it's just like you just roll with the punches and you just hope you're prepared as much as you can be.
Yep. This is very true. Very true. Well, today we are going to talk more about your movie in a little while. Don't worry. But let's see what kind of collection you have. I see you got a nice little collection right behind you.
Oh yeah, these are actually all my novels and my Legos and my little minifigures from my board games that I'm painting. That's all I did during COVID. Like I didn't even I think it took me forever to get I looked like a caveman when COVID happened because I didn't have to go outside. So I was sitting in and just like playing video games and painting and reading books. I was like, outside world, what is that? I have this cave. I'm just gonna stay in this nice cozy cave and just paint.
Your nice little hobbit hole. Yes, right.
That's it. I don't like leaving this place unless I have to.
There you go. Nice. All right. Well, what kind of physical media do you collect?
Well, I collect a shit ton of Blu-rays, mainly like Blu-rays, DVDs, anything along those type of things. For me, it's either the weirder, the better for me. If the stranger it is, the more curious I'm about it. The other aspect of it is I love Japanese films. I love foreign films. So if I can find any type of foreign films, that's why I bought a Region B Blu-ray player. Well, not a Region B, but a multi-regional, just so I can watch whatever the hell is out there that I can find and get my grubby little hands on. Because I need to see everything I can get my hands on. So yeah, for my collection, whenever you're ready, I can show you a ton of crap. You ready?
Nice. Have you moved into 4K yet?
I bought my first 4K, but I haven't bought a 4K player yet. And the 4K was on
halfway there.
Accident. I bought the Dune Arrow on 4K. Okay. And I was like, oh, great, I'll get this. And it only is in 4K. And I thought the Blu-ray would be with it. I was like, well, I guess I got to wait until I get my 4K player now for this one. But that, and I think the Beastmaster 4K I did buy from Vinegar Syndrome. I did get that one as well.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
So what is the first movie you remember buying yourself?
My first movie that I remember buying by myself, it was probably Cruel Intentions, or on par with that, probably Ronin Kenshin, the TV series for the Wandering Samurai, the anime.
Yeah.
Probably one of the first two that I actually bought with my money on DVD. Mainly for Cruel Intentions, I was a huge fan of Sarah Michelle Gellar in the day. Huge fan of Selma Blair. I love that cast. It was like the WB 90s cast, and you're a teenager. So it's like, yeah, that's what you're going to spend your money on right away.
Yeah. The first one I remember buying, the first DVD I remember buying was Highlander, the director's cut.
Ooh, that was a good one.
And I remember watching it and liking it way more because they added some scenes in.
Yeah.
and it like blew me away, and like how clear it was and everything. And
Yeah.
I don't, at the time it was like, whoa, this is amazing.
I just remember for like Cruel Intentions, everybody who kept rewinding the kiss scene in that film. Everybody was like, they kissed, dude, they kissed. That never happens in a movie like this. Oh my God, let's rewind it again. Play. Let's rewind it again. Play. Let's rewind it again. Play. You know, it's constantly, you know, for that. But it was just so funny to see those characters, those actors play against their type that they usually play on the WB and things of that nature. So that was also kind of fun to see.
Yeah. And that now you can just pull it right up on YouTube.
Oh yeah, I know. It's fun.
Oh, streaming.
Well, I loved it too, though, because it had commentary on Cruel Intentions, and it was so funny because it was like the director's first film, and they were showing you where they made mistakes while watching the movie. But it gets better. They were drinking champagne as they were watching it, so they were getting seriously a little bit more tipsy as time moved on, and it was just so damn funny because they're like, "What's that in the water? Oh my God, that's a marker. We forgot to take the marker off." And then you would have never recognized it, but until you said it, you can't like not miss it at this point. It was just really funny to listen to like them just telling about mistakes.
That is too funny.
Yeah,
I'm have to check that out. That's I like that.
it's not as good as watching John Carpenter riff with
Russell.
Kurt Russell. Yeah, it's not as good as that, but it's fun.
Those commentaries are pretty epic.
Yeah.
I got it. For anyone who has not watched a Carpenter Kurt Russell commentary track, please do so. It's fantastic stuff.
It's never about the movie. How are you kids? How's things going?
Kids. Yeah. Oh man, that's too funny. That is too funny. All right. So what is your favorite genre to collect?
Favorite genre is probably either horror and sci-fi. I don't really consider them separate because there's too many that overlap. So I consider horror and sci-fi really just the same genre. There's subgenres, sure, but I feel like horror and sci-fi are like one big genre in itself. I mean, if you think you could totally edit Star Wars even to be like a horror movie, if you did it from the point of view of Darth Vader, like the Frankenstein monster practically. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
There you go. That's great. Let's see what we got. I'm trying to blow up my phone. What is this? So are there any like boutique labels or anything that you specifically?
Oh yeah, Scream Factory, Shout Factory, Vinegar Syndrome, Scorpion Films if I can find them, with Scorpion Release. There's Agfa, MVD. There's Synapse Films, Vestron. Yeah, even Fun City, which is a new one that I started collecting, has really been good so far. I haven't had like one dud with them yet, so I'm really liking them a lot.
That's the only one that you've mentioned that I've not heard of.
Oh yeah, it's under, if you go on Vinegar Syndrome's website, it's under their boutique labels, like their other smaller labels.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're really good. Like I've tried that, and there's another one, I forget which one it is from, but they had a movie called Donnie's Bar Mitzvah, which felt like it's like a 90s movie, but it's on like VHS. Like, so it's almost like makes it look like it's a VHS taped film movie. And maybe it is, but it's like something like you would watch from like the 90s that was like the R-rated comedies along the lines of like American Pie or something along, something like that, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really funny. It surprised me how funny that was.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, so let's see. What else I got? We got, what item in your collection would probably surprise people?
I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, half the films that I've showed to people, they've never heard of. So that always kind of like makes me feel better. I mean, I've talked about Emmanuel and the Last Cannibals, and people are like, what you have an Emmanuel movie? I'm like, wait. It's not what you think. It is and it isn't. It's just a really weird film. And it's like, you don't know if you're watching a sexy film or if you're watching like a cannibal film, or in this case, it's actually both. And it's very graphic and it's really good. Yeah, it surprised me how good this was. So usually that anything by Takashi Miike usually surprises the crap out of everybody. Like the happiness of the categories. When I've showed people that movie, they are not expecting stop motion animation at all, and how bad the musicals are in it. I mean, I've had people either you like it or hate it. There is no in between in those movies. I've seen people that I've showed it to at my house leave, and I've seen other people that just said this is the greatest thing I've ever seen. So it just all depends on what you're in the mood to watch. Yeah.
Yeah, Mike is a pretty amazing filmmaker.
Oh, I love his stuff.
Yeah,
Everything,
and
even like the bad stuff, is still it's just fun to watch.
because it's so out there, it's just
Yeah.
like it's like this guy's brain is on a different level.
When I saw the movie Terraform Mars, which is also called Terraformers, and it's basically based on an anime, but it's about these people that go in space and they colonize Mars, and there's these giant cockroach mutated people on Mars that they didn't tell them about, but the people back home on Earth knew about it, and they have to kill them. You know, and I was like, "Yep, this is something that I would watch. Very strange. Yep, this is it. This will work." Stuff like that is like the stuff that I like to watch. Yeah.
And and as you know, and as probably most of my viewers know, that I'm all into the weird stuff too. Love
Oh
all
yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, for those that don't know, I've known Peter for 20 something years, so very good guy.
Same goes for you. 20 years has it been that long?
Reduced, but I think it's been about 25 actually.
Damn, I'm an old
Yeah.
fart.
I want to say it was 96 ish.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's about right.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
So 25, 26 years. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
We could have adult kids grown up by now that
Man, I'm telling you, like that's what I feel like when I see some of my actors now. I'm like, what are you, just a child? Yeah. Oh, you guys are like kids. I feel like the dad at this point. But then again, you look at the filmmakers that we grew up with; they all look like dads. You know, not most of them weren't like the young hip guys, except for like Eli Roth. You know, he was like one of the few. Everybody else was like your father figure age. You know, doing movies. So it's like, eh. Now here we are at that age. So I was like, no, I guess that's it. That's the way it just goes.
made it.
Yeah. Yeah, for him. Made it. Where? I have no idea, but I'm here. Yeah.
So what is the rarest item in your collection, movie wise?
Rarest item? That's I would probably say my original Appleseed on VHS, or even the anime, or even the anime The Cockpit, which was a World War II anime that is only on VHS, never went to DVD or Blu-ray. And it's probably like the rarest one. I think that's probably the rarest one I have, is that because it's never been duplicated anywhere yet. And I think that was put up by either US Manga Corps or by Manga itself at the time.
I'm
I still
gonna
have
have
that.
to look for that one. I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah, I still have that thing too. I was like shocked, like, oh, I still got this. Mine. I'm not leaving this. You know, maybe when I'm dead, but I don't know.
Now Appleseed I've seen quite a few times.
Yeah, I love Appleseed.
Yeah, Appleseed's great. It's currently on Tubi. If anyone's interested in watching that one.
They're about to release it again on Blu-ray.
I think 4K too.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So what would you consider your like prized possession in your movie collection?
My movie collection, ooh, probably that would probably be some of my box sets. Probably my Zatoichi box set from Criterion.
Yes.
I would probably say, and I still haven't watched all the Zatoichis, you know, and I've had it for like 5 years.
Same.
Probably on like the third Zatoichi film. I started watching it during COVID, and I'm only on part 3 or part 4, something like that. Probably the other one that I have is the Hellraiser box set from Arrow, which had the first 3 Hellraiser movies, which I absolutely adore, especially number 3. So yeah, that I was really happy to have as well, because I was shocked when that came out. I was like, well, I'm buying this. I don't need this, and my wife will yell at me for this, but I'm gonna go buy this. thankfully she was caught up in it because we went to I think we were at a monster convention, I think Texas Frightmare, and we were there, and that's where I bought like the box set. She's like, "Oh, you want some movies? Well, we can get some stuff together." I'm like, I love this woman. She's actually gonna buy movies. I thought this was only gonna be a solo thing, huh? Well, it has been after that. It was the only time she ever did that, but I was happy for it.
So you showed me a nice little stack earlier. What
Oh yeah.
what you got to show us?
Well, the first one is practically a movie I saw when just recently, which is called there we go, which is called Battles Without Honor and Humanity, uh, which is by Fukuwazaki, I think, something like that.
Saki, yeah.
Uh, Basically, it's almost like I would say close to like our version of The Godfather, but instead they make it like a massive series that takes place like 20, 30 years. And it starts off at the end of World War II and goes all the way into the first one starts from World War II and goes all the way into like the mid 50s. And that's where the first movie ends. And it follows a guy who's an outsider that becomes like part of like the Yakuza. And I was actually surprised by how good this was. And I was like, well, now I got to go see the rest because there's like 5 or 6 of them in the series. Actually, now, and I think Arrow just put out the new ones, so which were like 2 or 3 extra. So I've got a lot of catching up to do on those. But it was a lot of fun. I mean, I had I'll probably watch it again because there's just so much going on in that film that, like in Japanese and foreign films, there's so much going on. You need to do a second take run just to catch everything because you're busy reading and looking. The second time it goes by a lot quicker and it's a lot more interesting, I feel.
Very cool. Is that where that Kill Bill song comes from?
No. That's what I was curious about too. Yeah.
Yeah, it just happens to have the same title.
Yeah. That's what I kind of wondered about too, and I was like, is it from this? But no, it's not in there. I would have heard it and recognized that in a heartbeat like everybody else did, But that's one. The other one I have is a movie I used to see with my dad all the time because he was a big Charles Bronson fan. And that was Death Hunt. Where the hell? There you go. Death Hunt.
There you go.
And I was a big fan of Death Hunt from my dad because my dad used to watch a lot of Bronson on AMC before AMC had commercials. And so one night he's like, "You got to see this movie." I was like, "Why? What do I need to see?" He's like, "It's Lee Marvin and Charles Bronson." So what? He says, and it has the bad guy from Rocky. I'm like, Carl Weathers? He's like, "Yeah, that's him, Carl Weathers." I'm like, "And what?" He's like, "It's just come over and watch the damn movie." I was like, "All right." So I watched the movie with my dad, and I was like blown away how good this was because it's like Charles Bronson takes over everybody, and it's a period piece in the Alaskan frontier, roughly like the Canadian Alaskan frontier at the turn of the century, the turn of the 1900s. And I was like, I'm in. And the idea that Lee Marvin's a Mountie with Carl Weathers was probably the most interesting aspect of this movie because I don't know if I would think about it today, like Lee Marvin as a Mountie. Do I buy this? I don't know if I'd buy this, but I do like the movie just on the fact that it's all about. It's kind of reminds me of that John Wick feel with the point of someone kills a guy's dog, shit happens. That's basically what it is, and I love that movie for that.
Then it's called Death Hunt. You said?
Yeah.
Death Hunt. Okay, I'm definitely gonna have to look that one up. Of course I've seen the Death Wishes.
Yeah.
I've not seen Death Hunt. So
Yeah,
I will definitely have to check that out. That sounds great.
that's a great one. Next is a movie I found through Arrow again, and I don't even look at what like for me if it's the name, the title, I don't even look at the back to figure out what the hell it is. So like, all right, I'll watch it. This one was called Horrors of Malformed Men.
Oh yeah.
And that name alone, I'm like, I don't care what this is. I'm going to watch this. And when I watched it, I was like, holy shit, what a movie this was. This is like Dr. Moreau on steroids. If it was done correctly by they should have got a foreign director to do the Dr. Moreau from the 90s if they had to give it to not after they took it away from what's his face that was supposed to do the movie. I can't think of his name.
Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And when they took it away, they should have gave it to this dude if he was alive. I mean, that movie, I don't even know how to explain it other than like, it's really, it starts off the guy's in prison. He's telling his whole tale from prison practically. And it's just like one thing after another. And you're like, what the as each scene's getting deeper and deeper, you're like, what the fuck am I watching? It just gets weirder and weirder as I go along. And at the end, you're like, this is Dr. Moreau and the Island of Lost Souls mixed into one movie, even though they're the same story. It just feels like it's just one I tell people, like, you just got to watch. I can't even try to explain it to people because it's just one that's just very weird and it's very Japanese. You know, that's
I,
way to put it.
I find a lot of those that those weird like Japanese artsy flicks around that time. They're all just so bizarre.
Yeah, which
But
is great.
Oh yeah, they're fascinating watches for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I absolutely loved it. I after like I showed my wife this, like, you want to watch this? She's like, I'm not watching that. She didn't even bother with it. She looked at the name. She's like, I'm not watching this. I say, it's a Japanese film. I'm not watching this. It's in color. I'm not watching this.
I'm not watching. Nope, not watching.
All right. I was like, I get it. You're not watching it. All right, fine.
Yeah, I definitely know my my wife's limits, so I definitely know what I can and cannot show her.
Yeah, no, I've learned. I've learned. Yes. I've learned some things from that. I'm like, yeah, this. I've done it sometimes when I'm watching a movie. Like, this would look good for. Okay, she'll watch this. One scene comes up. Can't watch this movie with her now. I can't do this. Yeah, this will do it. I've told her not to watch since the COVID and stuff, not to watch films with me for festivals because she'll yell at me. And I just watched Phil Tippett's new movie, something God. I can't think of the first name of it, but it's basically it's all animated. It's like 3D. It's like stop motion animation. And Phil Tippett did all the work, for Jurassic Park before they got the CG to work, because they were going to do stop motion dinosaurs for Jurassic Park. And so this took him 10 years to do. And I'm watching this movie, and my wife looks at me and she goes, why do you make me watch this stuff? This stuff is horrible. You shouldn't be. I'm leaving. Oh, well, first time I'm watching this. What the hell do I know what I'm seeing? Remember this. And then she's like, I'm never watching anything with you again until you tell me what's going on. So that's what I have to do now. I have to censor myself for everybody else's benefit, because I watch a really lot of crazy shit now.
Yeah. I feel you. I feel you. Yeah, one time Peter and I watched a lovely movie called Salo.
Yeah.
That Peter swore to me he'll never watch again.
That's the truth. That is the truth. But at the same time, I would love to watch a reaction of people watching that film for the first time. That is something to see.
I agree. That might make a very interesting video.
Yeah, that to me would be funny to see. Because that movie, I've told people that after that film was made, I think it was on the documentary. After that film was made, the director was murdered for it. It's like, wow, because people thought that this guy was deranged and a madman and stuff like that. But these are actors; they agreed to it. It's almost like the Green Inferno, not the Green Inferno, but Rodato's movie, Cannibal Holocaust. Yeah, it's just the same thing. The actors had to leave and they thought they were all dead. Mm-hmm. It was actually a real murder.
It's so funny how these movies, like certain movies, people just think that they're real.
Oh yeah,
like Cannibal Holocaust, Blair Witch, all this stuff, and it's like, it's a movie. I'm just saying, I don't know. That fascinates me, how movies can manipulate people to think that way.
I think it's great. I absolutely love the fact that it does that, because when people start believing the shit's real, they go tell everybody else and their friends. And so the other people have to go watch it to figure out, is it true? I don't believe it. I gotta watch this for myself. And that makes it much more interesting to see.
That's kind of what it is. It's like word of mouth and just yeah. exactly how that works.
Oh, so another one I have. I read a biography about 3 or 4, no, probably like 10 years ago now, on Ken Russell. I had no idea who Ken Russell was. All I knew, he was a director and he did some really crazy films. But before I even knew that, I was like, I'll read his biography. What the hell? So I read his biography. And then I decided to go watch his movies. So the first movie I watched by him was his movie Crimes of Passion. By
Okay.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I've shown this movie to 2 or 3, like not 2 or 3 people, but about probably 20 something people at this point. And it's a 50-50. Some people loved it, some people hated it. Some people are like, I don't know how I feel about this movie. You know, they have those in the middle. I love it because the idea that I never got to see Anthony Perkins play anybody other than Norman Bates. So the idea that here he plays like a crazy priest who's trying to like tell this sex worker she's going to hell, you know, it is something to see in itself. But then the idea that there's a crazed killer going out killing hookers, I love that trope. That's never going to get old for me. As well as the fact that, you know, it's what's her face? Kathleen Turner, you know, in one of her earliest roles. You know, all I knew Kathleen Turner from really was like her movies with you know, doing stuff with Robert Zemeckis. Yeah, you know, like Romancing the Stone and things of that nature. So I didn't think she did stuff like this. So I was like, I am so watching this. And then when I watched it, I was like, this movie's fantastic. I've got to see more of this guy's stuff. And then I brought me down to Lair of the White Worm. And then, you know, there's even one on Criterion that I think I saw once. And I'm like, this would have been on HBO late at night, the one I'm thinking of on Criterion. Today, it would just be a regular, normal HBO movie. And that's how much time has changed for it. But I thought it was really, it has Oliver Reed in it. And there's a craziest scene, which I thought was the most interesting thing, because only Ken Russell could probably get away with this. Oliver Reed is in a room with this other guy, and they're good friends, and they're drinking. And he's like, I can't get this angst out of me. He's like, well, let's just wrestle. Okay. And mind you, they're in this beautiful like mansion, and they get completely naked and beat the shit out of each other in this room. I was like, yes, this is why I like this movie. This is exactly what it is. It is like watching Greek tragedy in a modern, like in a Victorian era landing. This would never happen, but thank God for Ken Russell and these crazy ass movies of his. Yeah. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I had a coworker who was a big Ken Russell fan. She introduced me to quite a lot of his movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I recently watched Listomania.
Oh
You ever
yeah,
watched
yeah.
that one? With Roger Daltrey as the
Yeah.
composer. Yeah, that's I loved it though. It was so,
It's out there.
keep saying bizarre, but I mean I don't know what else to say. It's just so, yeah, out there. I
Yeah.
guess is the right way to say it. And but I loved it, and I don't even like Roger Daltrey. So, and I thought he did pretty good. Yeah.
That's one I have not seen, only on clips of it. I read about it, and that's part of like he actually had to do a series of like small little classical pieces because he listened to classical music all the time, and so he was doing a documentary, and that's part of the documentary series was different composers, and that's what he did for his. And I'm almost like, oh my god, what did people think when they first saw this? That's what I want. That's what I want to know. Yeah. And he gets a whole career out of this. That's more astounding to me. Like, wow, this guy's fantastic. This guy gets like this much work after this. Oh my god, why couldn't I live then?
All you got to do is just make the Devils, man, and you'll be set.
I'm telling you, I still need to see that movie. That is still on my. I'm still waiting for a Blu-ray. Yeah, man.
Hey, I don't think the Blu-ray is coming. I do have an uncut copy on DVD
Ooh, very nice.
that I can let you see. Yeah,
Cool.
it's definitely worth it. And Shutter had it on for a little while, for
I
like a
saw
couple of
that
months,
and
and
I
then
missed it. Yeah.
they took it off real quick though. But yeah. So speaking of Shutter, do you stream anything, or do you
Yes.
strictly physical media?
No. I stream. I stream Shutter. Every now and then I go to Rue. I read a lot of Rue Morgue magazine, and through there they have a lot of movies that are coming out. Some things are on Shutter, and I'm like, all right, that sounds pretty good. I'll check that out. So anthologies, I'm always checking out because I do love horror anthologies. I wish there were more horror anthologies, just because I like seeing different filmmakers doing different shorts, and that's a great way of seeing their stuff. And being
There's a
also
lot of bad. There's a lot of bad anthology movies.
oh yeah, there's tons, but sometimes even those bad ones, you get like one good gem in them, and
Every once in a while.
yeah, you're like, this one was good. Was it worth the other ones? It depends.
Probably not, but
Yeah. Yeah, so I stream Shutter, Amazon Prime, like like Netflix. I think that's all I get. I'm waiting. I'll probably get HBO Max again when Game of Thrones starts up again. Uh, I don't do Disney Plus. I did Disney Plus like once, and that was for like The Mandalorian. But then when I saw they're going like, we're gonna do this now, and then we're gonna do this series, like, oh hell no, I'm not getting sucked in that hole. I get the fuck out before I get a chance to. This will just suck my life away. So I couldn't do that. There's reasons. I mean, Hulu's the same way. I couldn't do Hulu because I know I'd be addicted to my TV set. I'll get no work done. So I was like, I can't do this. It's too dangerous. Too dangerous.
Yep. Yeah, especially if you're a Star Wars fan, forget it.
Yeah.
Disney Plus is a monster.
That's why I'm waiting. Eventually, they're probably going to do it. Eventually, they'll probably put this stuff out on Blu-ray or 4K. When they do, that's when I'll probably grab it because then I'll have more time and I don't have to worry about when they're going to take this off of here. I'd just rather that. Yeah.
Right. Well, that's the thing that I hate about streaming. Like they'll just take the stuff off.
Yeah. That's
it. No nothing. All of a sudden, you log back in and it's gone.
Yep. That's it.
You could buy it and it's still gone.
Huh?
That's the thing about streaming that I just cannot stand.
I don't like it because the fact that I'm never going to get a great picture. And I don't get all my good stuff.
There's certain things. Actually, Disney Plus actually has a pretty good HDR picture.
Really?
Yeah. Shockingly. Yeah. How about that?
For me, it's like the special features. I love commentaries. I love like interviews with the actors and stuff like that. You really don't get that. All you get is like a 30-minute quip usually, and that's it. And it's like, that was on a DVD. You're like, this is cheap. No, this is that's like Paramount putting out their crap right now. It's like, oh, we have one thing in the movie. No, that's not what I want. That's why I prefer Arrows and Shout Factory. They like put commentaries. They have massive interviews. Sometimes they'll even have like 2-hour documentaries, an hour documentary on the stuff. So yeah, they do their work, man. I love those guys for that stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, man.
I was saying the next one I have.
We got more. Okay.
Yeah. Is there's an anime that I think you remember watching, which was Spriggan. If I can get the light, there you go. Spriggan.
Yeah, you got it.
Yeah. Spriggan, I think we watched when we were younger.
It
was up there like the time I showed y'all Lotus Wars, El Hazard, a lot of the anime stuff, besides like Ninja Scroll, and the darker stuff like Vampire Hunter D and stuff like that too. Or Lily Cat, that was the other one too, and Demon City and, Devil Hunter Yokio and Master of Mosquiton, which is another one I still have on VHS.
I forgot about that one. Yeah.
So that's kind of along those lines of those, and they have a few that actually have made it to DVD and some to Blu-ray. And that's another company is Right Stuff. I'm always looking on Right Stuff for their anime stuff because they have a lot of older stuff that comes out besides newer stuff. So I'm always looking on there because I could do Crunchyroll and I could do the other, Funimation and stuff like that for their streaming services, but I just rather buy it because sometimes they change the voices and the dubbing as well as some of the subtitles are different. Like I'm probably gonna end up buying the Evangelion box set, but I have to buy the Uber box set. That's
Ooh, I was
super
about to say,
expensive.
yeah.
Only because they have the original cast dub from the 90s on the Uber dub. And that's what I grew up with. So that's the one I kind of want. I don't want the newer one that's on Netflix. It doesn't sound right to me. It
Right.
sounds a little off. So I was like, nah, I'm just going to have to fork up some extra money and get it this way. And my wife can call me crazy, but I don't care.
Totally understand. I totally get that. like you, I have like a room full of just
Yeah.
movies everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like a store.
Yeah, basically. Actually, between you and I, we probably have as much as Blockbuster did.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure at this point, absolutely.
Not more.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, like, well, anyway, with Spriggan, which I loved, was the idea. Like, I showed it to Adele, my wife. I showed it to her, and she said someone was on crack when they made this or coke, because this movie is really strange and messed up. And I thought that was funny coming from her, because the anime I showed her was a fairly recent anime, which was Attack on Titan, because it just happened to be on Netflix. And she was like, I didn't know cartoons can be this dark and beautiful. I was like, yeah, pretty much. And that's when I showed her, like, I ended up showing her Ninja Scroll, Ghost in the Shell. I still haven't shown her Akira. And we were watching an episode of Rick and Morty when I started falling on the floor because he says, we have an Akira moment happening here, and it's the idea of like the joke being it looks like something out of Akira. And she's like, what is Akira? I'm like, I have to show you Akira. I'm going to have to show you Akira. She got the Cronenberg world joke, which was great, from the first season. So I'm getting her taught up to like what nerd I am, or like what Nerdville is for like filmmakers and movie buffs, in general. Oh.
Do you have any favorite like directors or filmmakers?
Oh, tons.
I'm sure.
Directors that I really liked was Stuart Gordon. In fact,
He's great.
I talked to Stuart Gordon 2 or 3, 4 times on Twitter in private messages. He's tweeted me back on questions I've had about directing and filming and things of that nature. And it was so cool of him like to tweet back and talk to me. And so I was like, holy shit, this dude talks to me. That's incredible. That was the cool part about the internet with that. With social media, he was one. I actually did like Gene Wilder as a director. The Woman in Red, it's a great film, and I was like, and then he did Haunted Honeymoon, those are things we grew up with, and you just realize like how hard it must be for a comedy, put yourself in it, kind of like Mel Brooks. And I think he probably learned from Mel Brooks. And obviously, as another one, Mel Brooks is a huge influence on us because of like satire and just things you can't get away with saying anymore. I feel like Mel Brooks pretty much even today would probably say, I don't give a fuck. I'm still going to say it. I don't care. People need to laugh. And if you don't like it, screw you. I'm going to still do this.
You don't like it, don't watch it.
That's it. Change the channel. Cancel crap. It's like, just change the channel. The other thing that I thought was great is like, it's him, Fincher. I love Fincher. Fincher stuff I like a lot of people still give Alien 3 a lot of crap, and I get it. It's not the strongest of the 3, yes, but it's interesting to see that's his first film, and I was like, wow, a franchise film for your first movie is kind of tough. I get that, but I do like the idea of how ballsy he was towards that end of the movie to kill off Ripley. I can spoil that movie. I mean, 20 something years I think is a good enough time. And I was like, that's kind of ballsy to do, kill off your lead character like that and stuff like that. But people are going to hate that and kind of go on a somber note. And I was like, yeah, I get how people won't like that. But I thought, Zodiac was a good movie that he did. I did like his Netflix series that he did, which was processing like serial killers and things of that nature. I just can't think of the name of that. That was really good. It's basically on how the FBI starts psychoanalyzing criminals to see if there's such thing as a serial killer aspect, and then he did Mank, which I thought was great, which obviously felt like a 40s film with modern actors in it. And it's a true story based on Mankiewicz, who was a writer for Citizen Kane. And I was like, holy crap. Yeah, I was impressed with that black and white film. It's on Netflix, and I was just shocked how good that looked for it. And I think it was in the theater for only for a limited time. I really wish I would have saw it in the theater. I think it would have been way better to see in the theater than on the TV. So Fincher's one, Stuart Gordon, David Fincher, Mel Brooks. There's also Takashi Miike. That's a given. Growing up in the time of the 80s, there's always going to be a Spielberg in there. There's always going to be, hell, Spielberg gave us Indiana Jones with George Lucas. So both of those guys. And there's Robert Zemeckis, along those lines too. I mean, besides Back to the Future, Zemeckis did a lot of interesting comedies that most people don't even realize anymore, or even don't think about. Then there's the foreign filmmakers that I ended up finding out by years later. Alex de la Iglesia, for instance, is huge influence when I was in my late 20s. Like when I found his movie The Last Circus, I was like, this is my movie for the rest of my life. That's a movie I put in at least once a year, and it has alienated so many people from me. But it's exactly the movie that is basically my favorite movie that I'll put on once a year to watch. That's a must. Like Ridley Scott's another one like that. Like I'll put on one of his movies, which I have in this pile, that I'll watch every year. And I mean, well, there's more than one of his that I watch every year. Like Blade Runner is the other one I'll watch at least once a year, because it's just it's a great time to watch it when it's cold and wet and it's raining. So it's perfect time usually around this time of year. That's usually when I put it on. Yeah. It's like I said, there's tons of filmmakers that I love. John Carpenter, obviously, that's another given. Fulci, Bava. I mean, there's a ton.
I've been getting into Fulci lately. I've been watching a lot of his movies.
There's a lot of stuff like they've been releasing on Arrow, a lot of Fulci and Bava stuff. So I was like grabbing crap like crazy. A lot of it I still haven't watched yet. I have it, but I haven't opened it yet.
The same. There's probably a couple I haven't watched yet.
Yeah.
That's another collector problem. You buy it, but don't have time to watch it. I have a stack probably of at least 20 things, I'm sure, that I haven't even touched yet.
Yeah. Well, that's what it is. I forget what I even have. I forget, did I buy this? Oh crap, I bought this. Whoops. All right. Christmas present it is, or a birthday gift. I
have started cataloging mine, so I can look it up and see. Like I can look it up on my phone and see if I have it before I buy it again.
There's an actual app that actually does that. I found.
That's what I do.
Yeah, I found that myself. I started cataloging my books with that. I haven't gotten to my movies yet. It'll take me a while before I get to my movies or my video game collection. It'll take me some time before I get into all that stuff too. Moving on, I do have another one, which is Nothing But Trouble.
Yeah.
That was basically
one.
That's basically on HBO all the time as a kid. Every time you turn on HBO, it was either Beastmaster or, once again, Nothing But Trouble. Or if it was around the holidays, you're going to get Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Or Home Alone. It was one of the two. And I remember in this movie, I don't know how this movie got made. I think it's just because Dan Aykroyd was a hot commodity. So was Chevy Chase and John Candy. But if you look at this movie, you're like, who said yes to this? And at the same time, you're like, thank God this executive said yes to this. I don't know if this movie bombed or not. I love it because it's just so weird and so strange. I think if Dan Aykroyd didn't direct this, John Waters would have. Because it feels like it could have been a John Waters film at the same time. Instead of he would have probably put Divine in there, obviously, instead of John Candy, and have his cast of characters. But it's the same thing. it just feels like it could have been a John Waters film. And this movie is not an underground film, which is so funny. But because it hasn't been out for so long, and then I just saw recently Shout Factory's putting out a Blu-ray of it. Yeah, and I was like, that's probably going to be me rebuying it and then giving this one away to somebody else, unless this one has different special features from the other one. So that's always the case too.
I was just going to ask you if you're an upgrader.
Oh yeah. Like I have King Kong, the Peter Jackson Kong, which is 2005. I have the Blu-ray, but the Blu-ray does not have the 2.5 hour making of special that the DVD had. So I have the DVD copy only because of that 2.5 hour special, which is really helpful for. I mean, I tell people this all the time, like want to be filmmakers and things like that. Peter Jackson stuff is the ones you really want to look at because they'll give you a ton of making of crap from like pre-production to all the way to post-production. And I mean, I thought that's so invaluable. And my God, how incredible that is that they have a documentary crew to stay with them that long just to put all that stuff together like that. That's just incredible. I mean, that's a dream thing for anybody to have something like that.
Yeah, that's the same reason I have multiple copies of House of a Thousand Corpses and Devil's Rejects, because the Blu-rays don't have the 2.5 hour documentaries about the making of the movie, which is almost as fun as the movie.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I like to say, hello, we want that. We want that on here, people.
That's the thing. That's why I'm hoping that one day we'll get something else. Like, eventually more and more companies will probably end up doing that, hopefully, and they get the drift of it. They catch on. Next one I have is a movie that I'm sure you haven't seen. I'm plugging my lead actress as well. This is called The God Inside My Ear by Joe Badon, who is a friend of mine, as well as a filmmaker. The lead actress, which is on the cover, is also the lead actress for my upcoming film, for Cannibal Witches from Hell. It's interesting, though, because this is why this is in there, though. I went to see this because at the local theater for the horror film festival, for New Orleans Horror Film Festival, and they said they had a feature film being shown for $8,000. And I'm like, $8,000 horror film feature? I got to go see this movie. And Adele's like, I'm too tired. It's like, all right, see you later. I'm going to go by myself. So I went by myself. I'm sitting in the back row. And the guy next to me is like, hey, how you doing? I'm like, oh, yeah, how you doing? He's like, what do you say? Have you heard anything about this movie? I'm like, I haven't heard anything. I'm just so curious. $8,000 to make a film? Holy shit, I got to see this. And he's like, okay. So I'm watching the movie. After it's over, he's like, what did you think? He's like, it's really good for $8,000. This is incredible. This is really good, and I told him, like, I think people, I didn't tell him this is what I'm thinking in my head. I was like, I think people are going to give him a lot of shit for this, but this is really good for $8,000. I mean, I don't know many people that would do a feature film, a horror film like this for $8,000. It's incredible. And I was like, it's good. And then he says, oh, thank you. I got to go up there because they mentioned his name to go up and talk. I'm like, and I was just talking to the filmmaker.
Nice.
It almost reminds me of the time when we went to see Kevin Smith at Tulane.
Yes.
And we had a quick little quirk talk with his wife, which was sitting right in front of us, and we had no idea.
No idea who she was. Nope.
It's kind of like one of those things that I always thought was really funny. So the exact same thing, with that, so from that, I got to talk to him and I said, your lead actress was really good. And then I started talking to her. She was on a podcast before I casted her. And she mentions on the podcast, I'm in a short film by a director named Peter Melancon. I'm like, she just said that. Now I have to cast her. Okay. So that was that, which I'm glad she did, because it pushed me to go for her. So that was really a good surprise and all. But yeah, it's like looking at my lead actors now, because most of my cast is like in their 20s or early 30s. Here I am in like my early 40s, but still, it's like I'm an old fart compared to these guys. It's like, you guys y'all look, they're like, they can run and walk. And I'm like, all right, I gotta take a break, guys. My back hurts. Give me 2 minutes. I'll be right over there. They're like, nothing. Nothing hurts yet. You're young. Wait until you're 40, then you'll be crying and becoming a curmudgeon like the rest of us. Get off my lawn, you kids. Slow down. The next one I have is something we watched in the theater as kids multiple times, and that is Starship Troopers.
Oh yeah.
I remember seeing this in the theater with you, with Johnny, with her friends Mike, but at the same time, the first time I saw it was with Pierre. We went to a midnight showing when they had midnight shows. We went to go see it at midnight, but before we saw it at midnight, we did a double. So we saw Mr. Bean, and then we saw Starship Troopers right after Mr. Bean. So we did the double feature thing, and it was, I'm telling you, that's when I tell people, like, this is when you want to have a double feature, is when you can do stuff like that, where you can have like a comedy with a sci-fi action movie that's going to be cheesy. It works so well, and we stayed until after the credits, obviously, so he saw the infamous Mr. Bean who goes, I like to stay at the end of the credits too, and just walks off. And he walks off the other way. So yeah, it was stuff like that I loved about that movie. But then with Starship Troopers, I remember you jumped in your seat when you thought that Denise Richards was going to die. Because that was your character that you were like rooting for that whole movie. You're like, no, they can't kill her. And I was like, well, the movie's not over yet. He's like, no, it's gonna. You really were into that movie in that moment. And I do love that, and I kind of miss that about theaters, because you don't nowadays. It's like, shit sucks. Everybody's like on a phone or some shit now. It kind of ruins it. But I remember, watching that movie in the theater and just like, well, it's Paul Verhoeven, first of all. So seeing a Paul Verhoeven film like that was enough to make you want to jump and go run to the theater. And then the idea, like, I mean, it's the guy who did RoboCop. So it's like, yes, I've got to see this. I've got to go see this movie. And it was rated R, and it was my first R-rated movie I got to like pay for myself to go see. So that was also the big reason it always sticks in my mind. And it's a movie I'll watch at least once a year as well. It's just a fun, fascist, funny bug movie. It's like fascism only works if you're fighting giant bugs.
Indeed.
And it's just the idea of seeing Neil Patrick Harris, also back then known as Doogie, as like just literally playing a fascist. And I was like, Doogie's dressed up as a fascist. This movie's fantastic.
Doogie, what did you do?
It's just so good. And I mean, the idea of like the nudity in this movie, if it's Paul Verhoeven, you're gonna have nudity. That's always like his thing.
That's pretty much a given.
Yeah. And it's so funny. And this movie to me was when you see Paul Verhoeven having the co-ed showers. I thought that was so awesome and funny at the same time, because with the character of Rico, when he says, "Oh, he joined it for a girl," that whole thing, and then when he's leaving the shower and one of the girls like slaps his ass, that was hilarious. I thought that was so funny. That movie to me is just so it's just a really good popcorn flick. It's just it doesn't take itself seriously, and it knows it, and it's just a fun movie to watch. It's just something just to let your mind wander and not think about, the world's going to end tomorrow. Who gives a shit? This movie's great. Stop it. It's a good one for that.
Just remember, the only good bug is a dead bug.
The other thing is Clancy Brown's character in that movie. Yes. It's like, why do we need to know about knives, sir, in like a nuke war? Anyway, it doesn't matter. He's like, put your hand up there. And he like throws a knife at him. He hits his hand. He's like, if you hit the knife, the hand, he can't press the button. Medic. Now, the next one's one that that I really love, and that is The Unholy.
Oh, yeah.
The Unholy, there's two reasons for this. I was 8 years old, by myself, at my godfather's house, and I'm not supposed to watch these movies, obviously. The Unholy takes place in New Orleans. It is about a succubus in a church who's a statue who comes to life and kills these priests. And she's like the most beautiful looking woman I've ever seen on screen at the time, and still is probably my top 5. She's breathtakingly beautiful. Anyway, here she is, hardly in anything. You could see right through this all throughout the movie. She's an Italian. I found that she's an Italian model, and this was her first film. Well, when I went to Full Sail for film school, okay, when I was in my effects class, the guy who did the effects did the effects for The Unholy. When I was looking through his bio and stuff, and I remember telling him, he was like, "Holy shit, you worked on The Unholy!" He's like, "You watched that piece of crap?" I'm like, "I love that piece of crap. What are you talking about? I would be telling everybody I worked on The Unholy, dude." And he's like, "Well, yeah." He's like, "Well, that movie didn't do well, and I didn't get that much done." Blah blah blah. I was like, "But the girl in that movie is like, oh yeah," He like stopped in mid sentence. Like when I mentioned that, he's like, "Well, yeah, yeah, oh yeah." Oh. Everybody was on set every day when she was on set. I'm like, I believe it, But that movie was, to me, holds a lot because the fact that you had actors in this movie that normally would not be in a movie like this. You had, the guy who played the new Barnabas Collins, from Dark Shadows of the 90s, he was in this.
Yep.
You had a very old Terrence Howard in this movie, like ready to croak Terrence Howard, who plays like a blind priest. And then you've had, the very bad accents of New Orleans, which was always kind of funny, to watch in movies.
Yep.
So those 3 things alone, and the very attractive demon, it was like, I'm going to always love this movie no matter what. I still haven't watched the special features on it because I feel like I need to rewatch this movie just so I can get back to the special features on this again. And it's been about 4 years, so it's time for a revisit, I feel, for that. Yeah,
it's been a few years for me. I think I have the DVD somewhere. Pretty sure I do. Yeah, but yeah, that's a great one. Yeah, if you haven't seen The Unholy, folks, I would I do recommend it. It's cheesy. But it's just it's a good time.
It's kinky. And don't watch it if your girlfriend's kind of like conservative. Don't watch it. If your parents are conservative, don't watch it with them. Watch it by yourself. It's really good. Next one I have is another one we saw a lot of, and that is Stephen Sommers' Deep Rising. Now, I loved Deep Rising. 99. So Titanic just came out and went. And then I remember the tagline for this movie, which was the survivor, those who died on the Titanic were the lucky ones. And it's like, well, okay. I have no idea what this is about, other than it had Treat Williams in it, and Famke Janssen in it. That's all I knew. And I just knew it was an action movie. And all I knew was this is before he did The Mummy. This was 97. So 2 years later or 3 years later, he would end up doing Titanic. So it's right around that time, not Titanic, but right before he did The Mummy, which is 99. So this is his movie prior to The Mummy. And I thought this is probably his best film. I love the first Mummy film, but I think this is his best film. I absolutely love the comedy and the horror. This is almost like I would compare it to like a modern day, an older version of James Gunn's Slither. That feel of it, where it's kind of a comedy horror. It's kind of grotesque, but it's a lot of fun to watch, and there's some good laughs in that movie as well.
And it really plays both sides pretty equally.
Yeah, I mean, I think this would be a great double feature if you did, Deep Rising with Slither. I think that would be it would be a fantastic one to do with that, because there's so many good comical parts in both of those movies that make them good comedy horrors. Next I have is an Alex de la Iglesia movie, which is Perdido Durango, which was not the original title of the film, but that was his title. But they were like, no, we don't like that name for that movie because who the hell is Perdito Durango? It's like, it's the main character. Yeah, we don't like that name of the movie. So they changed it. The studios changed it. My question is, how the hell did this movie get made? This has fetuses, baby fetuses being hijacked, first of all. Then you have the fact that you have a pre-James Gandolfini of before he's known as James Gandolfini as an FBI agent. You have Javier Bardem playing a crazed, sadistic, killer for money. He actually like does fake voodoo just so he can collect some money from people. Yeah, and as well as he's like a bank robber and stuff in the beginning of the movie as well. And I mean, it's funny. It's Alex de la Iglesia, so it just keeps going. His movies like never really stop. Once they start, you're like on a roller coaster ride. They never really slow down, and it's just fun to see like where these characters go. But he had some crazy shit that he wanted to do, but the actors were like, no, like I don't blame him. I mean, he basically asked Rosie Perez and Javier Bardem, they really don't mind having sex in the movie. And they're like, yeah, we do. We don't want to have sex. He's like, okay, I thought I would just ask. I was like, wow. And apparently they got very close to doing that because there's just like some crazy raunchy nut scenes with the sex. I mean, like, I don't know how to explain this movie to anybody other than this movie is nuts. It's just like,
I'm going to have to check this out.
It's like super offensive to people, funny as hell, and just like your mouth will just drop at parts in this movie. If you're not used to seeing wild, crazy cinema, this is one that'll do that to you. And it's so damn funny at the same time. It's like ridiculously hilarious. This is a movie I've debated on. Like this is probably a movie I would probably only show the dude guys. I don't think I could show many girls this movie. Hell, I don't think I could show many girls any Alex de la Iglesia films. For the fact that they would probably just give me the look that most of my girlfriends gave me, which was something like this. And I don't feel like seeing that look anymore. So I stay away from getting those looks from girls a lot. Next is a fairly recent one. Oh, you had something to say?
No. I was just going to joke. I was going to say that's going to be the thumbnail.
There you go. Next one is one I have is a fairly recent one, but it's definitely a Peter film, and that is Guns Akimbo. Now, with Daniel Radcliffe. Have you seen this one yet?
Not seen it yet.
Yeah, this was fun to me because it's nuts. It's the idea that he's basically. I kept saying this is what Johnny would happen to Johnny, the whole time. One of my friends is a computer programmer, and that's what he is in this movie. And all he does, this would have been him like 20 years ago, not today. Anyway, it's just him getting on like social media and bashing people for watching a show that basically is about like an online underground show where there's killers killing each other for money. And he always badmouths these people, and then one day he badmouths the wrong people, and he gets put into this show. And they put nails into his hands where the guns are connected to his hands. And so he's running in his underwear and in his basically almost the whole movie's in his underwear, and he's in a robe trying to like run away from these, mainly this one girl who's trying to kill him. And the girl is also in Ready or Not Ready or Not, but Ready or Not. Deborah something or other, but I can't think of her last name though. Deborah Weaving or something like that. Not Samara Weaving. Is it Samara Weaving? I don't remember. Anyway, I'd have to look it up. Anyway, so good. She is so good in this movie because it took me a minute to recognize that was the same girl. And I was like, holy shit, it's the same girl. This is so good. She's so funny at playing this character and watching this. Like, I love Daniel Radcliffe post Harry Potter. I'm not a big fan of Harry Potter. Me and my wife fight about that all the time. But what I do like about Daniel Radcliffe is he's taken the nuts view of taking movies, which I thought was great. Like Swiss Army Man, I was like, yes. If he keeps doing movies like this, I think I'd have a shot to working with him, just like on crazy ass movies. So I was like excited for that. But yeah, it's well worth a watch. It's just ridiculous and fun and funny. It's one. I think you would like it. I think you would probably end up liking it.
It sounds like a couple of other movies that I've seen. I've seen one called Spare Parts.
Yeah,
Came out last year.
Yeah.
Sort of similar. These girls get all trapped and they get their hands cut off, and it's like a gun and stuff. It sounds similar. I'm sure it's much better because I'm sure the production is quite much.
Oh yeah. There's a lot. Yeah, I'm sure of that too. Next I have is a classic, also by Paul Verhoeven, which is one I do watch every year, and that is RoboCop.
Oh God, there you go.
Yeah.
Is that the Arrow one?
Yeah, it's the Arrow one. RoboCop to me was just ridiculously violent, and we were kids, and I think that our parents just let us watch this movie. I don't know why, but my parents were like, "Yeah, it's too violent." This one, they're like, "Yeah, sure, it's a comic book movie. Go right ahead, it's fine. It's just RoboCop," and it's the most violent movie. I just rewatched it once it came back out on Arrow. I'm like, because they had the unrated, the R-rated cut with like the crazy violence added back in the movie, and I was like, "Holy shit, this is so violent and over the top." But what sells it for me is just the one guy. I'll buy that for $1. I don't need to know anything else about this movie. That was like because everybody wanted to know what show is this that they're watching. But I love how Paul Verhoeven created a TV show that we don't know anything about other than this one line that he just sticks in the movie from time to time with this crazy looking guy with a goatee and glasses and like a suit, always surrounded by these beautiful women and just going, "I'll buy that for $1." It's just like, and everybody all around them is like cracking up laughing. You're like, what the hell's going on? And then 2 minutes later, explosions, things blowing up and people getting killed. Great movie. It's like so funny to watch something like that. And the story's good. It's like Paul Verhoeven calls it like his version of an American Jesus story, because the whole idea of walking on water, where RoboCop walks on water, that whole aspect of it. But I could give a shit about that. I think it's great. I think that it has a great level to it. But it's just fun to watch the blow up and explosions and the corporate aspect of it, how ridiculous the movie is and how over the top it is. It's just, to me, just a lot of fun. And it's something that I feel like you don't see in movies anymore. Just the ridiculousness that they like have to explain everything. And I kind of miss things that they just didn't explain. That you had this and people like, what does that do? Well, yeah, I don't know. Well, you got to explain this. Why? Because if you don't, people won't understand what you're saying. Like, good. That means they have to say something about it. Figure it out. They might talk about it afterwards. They might say it's a piece of shit. Or they might say, like, what is he trying to say? I don't know what the hell. What do we watch? I don't know. That's what you want. Well, that's what I want. I mean, some people want all the answers. I don't want all the answers. I want more questions than answers. If I really like how the things exploded in this movie, but I don't know what I watched, but I had a good time watching it. That's what I look for. And that's a lot of foreign films. Now I got 2 left. So my second to last one is a Ridley Scott film, and it's one I watch every year, and that's Legend.
Okay.
I have the DVD version, and so now I have this version, and I think almost everything's on that version as well, but I have to double check with the DVD version. But I love how there's 2 scores for this movie, and I love the Goblin score. Was it Goblin that did the score, or was it Tangerine Dream? I can't remember.
Tangerine Dream, I believe.
Okay. Yeah. So I love the score for both of them. Of course, I love the composing score and I love the Tangerine Dream score. But I love how this is a good movie for people to study because it's all practical effects. There's girls being guys in makeup and guys being girls in makeup. Like Meg Mucklebones is played by Robert Picardo. And then the girl that plays the guy the Blick, who's supposed to be the demon, or the Goblin is actually a girl under all that makeup. The lead, the lead one. And I always thought that was amazing. That was like amazing makeup. Like I didn't even know you could do that. Then you look at Tim Curry's makeup as Darkness, and you're like, holy shit! Oh my god, that doesn't you wouldn't even see Tim Curry's face in this. Really, you could barely make out that it's him because it's so good with those effects. And then the idea that you have Tom Cruise before he's really known as Tom Cruise, and I love the costumes in this movie. I thought Mira Sarah's costume when she's dancing with the dress, it's like watching a giant dream more than anything else. And it's just the sound effects in this movie with the screaming of like the unicorns in it and everything else. They don't sound like horses. Everything is so surreal and different. And it just adds to this mystique and creepiness of this world that I absolutely love this film. And I know it bombed at the box office. I saw it when I was 7 on HBO. And I always loved this movie. This was like, I would watch this constantly as a kid with like Dark Crystal, the movie, constantly over and over and over again. These were like, those two movies were like the beginning of my love for fantasy in film. So yes, that was absolutely a must for those. Yeah. And last but not least is one that I love, and that is Reanimator.
Gordon, there you go.
Yeah. Stuart Gordon is by far one of my favorite filmmakers. I've seen almost everything he's done. It was either going to be that one or Dagon, because I love Dagon as well. But I think Reanimator, it's just everybody talks about one scene in that movie, and it's because it is the movie. It is the scene that makes that whole movie. And there's movies like that. Alien has it with the chest burster. This has it right to the point where the heads are almost right up to Barbara Crampton. It is those movies that you're like, did you see this movie yet? No. What happens? And you tell your friends at school, or hell, I got in trouble for telling my friends in school about this movie, but nonetheless, it was stuff that I was like, you got to see these movies. You got to see this. It's like Fright Night. Like you're at the back of the bus. Like I was on the back of the bus in summer camp talking to like my friends about, Fright Night and what were our favorite parts, or like Twilight Zone, the movie, and things like that within the anthology and stuff like that constantly. With Reanimator, it was just the idea of the most ridiculous, funny things, like the flying dead cat, the idea of, Jeffrey Combs being so, smug, like he knows more than anybody else, and still being funny, because then you have like Barbara Crampton coming in as like a college co-ed for like the other lead character's, girlfriend, as well as the dean's, daughter. I love this film. I mean, there's just so much to love about this movie. The notes towards like Psycho, the sound score, and you kind of know this is going to be a parody and a comedy at the same time. As you just don't know where this movie is going to go. And I'm always impressed, like all those nude bodies at the end of the movie, and they're not all pretty bodies, obviously, in the morgue. And when they get up and run, oh my God, I was like freaked out by that part. But at the same time, after the movie was over, I'm like, I need to watch this again when it comes back on HBO, because I was like, I'm so confused.
What did I just see?
Exactly. You're like, well, that's half the movies, and that's what I want. I want to see a movie that I'm like, I don't know what I just watched. I like movies that are going to make me feel something. Obviously, that's what we all want, is to feel something when you go see a film. When I saw Mother by Aronofsky, I was like, I don't know what I just watched. I'm very disturbed. I need to go buy this movie when it comes out, and I need to review it. And it's just an insane film, but it's so well put together for some reason. And I thought Aronofsky is a good director, and I like Aronofsky. And a lot of the directors I talked about, minus like Ridley Scott, out of the ones I've shown, and Takashi Miike stuff, obviously. A lot of directors don't do movies every year, and I think that's this weird thing with filmmaking today, that everybody thinks you have to have a movie out every year, or for some weird reason they're going to forget who the hell you are. It's like, it doesn't work like that, dude. I mean, it takes years to do a film. And I understand that. And you've got actors that are always working on stuff too, and so you've got to end up either putting them under contract, or you got to say like it's a loosely based contract. Once we get this going, that especially with COVID and shit nowadays, it's a lot harder. So there's a lot of things like that in place. And then sometimes I've had an actor tell me like, I need some money up front. Sure, there you go. That way, when we're ready to roll, she just comes back in. It happens. But yeah, it's been quite a journey with all that stuff, and my love for film grows every day. I mean, going to the movie, I still go to the movies. In fact, I went to go see the new Spider-Man movie. I didn't even see the trailers. I refused to watch the trailers because I didn't want any spoilers. Trailers tell me everything.
I can't stand watching trailers anymore. I can't.
Yeah, it tells you the whole movie. I'm like, I don't
really.
want to know the whole movie. I just want to watch the movie. Just say like what it's about in 2 seconds. Like, blah blah blah. That's it. That's all I want to know. I don't need to see anything else. The Thing is, to me, still one of the best trailers. It just basically says the title screen, and then they found something in the Arctic. That's all you know. That's it.
Yeah. Yep.
That's it. You don't need it. All you needed to know, it was a John Carpenter movie. That was it. And it had Kurt Russell. All right, that's fine. I don't need to know the whole movie. Don't tell me. Nowadays, it's like, we need to tell you everything because we make sure you got to watch it. I have a feeling today that a lot of like corporate heads for companies are like, well, I don't want to lose my job, so let's look at work 20 years ago. Or my favorite that I just heard, Del Toro just did Nightmare Alley, which is based on a movie from like the late 30s, early 40s, or also a novel. Okay. But that's like 40 years ago, and it's not really from a better known story. So it's not as bad. So I'm thinking that somebody's going to say like, oh, you know what? He did that movie, and that's an old movie. Let's go back and do other noir old movies now and see if they'll watch that, because we don't have any new ideas, and we're too afraid of losing our jobs. So let's just keep pulling stuff from the past and try to do it. My favorite thing is what Joe Dante says. If people can't watch a movie in black and white, fuck them. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. They don't need to have a remake for it. Screw it. It's the same thing with the 80s. You're like, if you don't like the original, then fuck it. You don't need another one. Make something else new. There's tons of movies and based in books that are ready to go that you just got to read and see if you like, and then say, this might be good as a movie. I mean, it can't be hard for those guys at the top, but they're just so damn scared, it feel like. So I was like, I wouldn't want to work for Hollywood.
No, me neither.
Yeah, I don't think my movies would fly in Hollywood, first of all. That would be the thing. If they did, I'd be shocked that, like, something I did, like, oh my God, this is great. Yes, would you like to work for us? Like, you're kidding me. This was not made for people. Yeah, this was made for like people that are weird and strange, that like strange and at films, and that's what I specialize in. Most of my stuff that I've shown is, a lot of it is very strange cinema for the most part. It is not most of it is not minus Guns Akibo. Is not really stuff that you would see often. Yeah, I mean that's what I go for.
Well, then tell us a little bit about the movie you're working on right now.
Oh yeah. Well, the movie I'm working on right now is called Cannibal Witches from Hell, and it's it's about a nun and a nun and her partner and a group of other misfits who were basically using black magic to have the perfect heist go correctly. And what happens, it doesn't go right, and instead they conjure up these cannibal witches from hell, and all hell breaks loose. That's the best way to put it.
Nice. I've actually been watching a lot of nunsploitation movies lately.
I love nunsploitation films. Yeah.
So I'll be looking forward to watching this one.
Yeah. My favorite nunsploitation film is not even really a nunsploitation film, but it's Nuns on the Run.
It counts. Yeah.
That's still like my favorite non-nunsploitation film, I guess. It is a nunsploitation, but it's just so damn funny. Plus, I love the idea of Robbie Coltrane and Eric Idle. Not Eric. Yeah, it is Eric Idle, dressing up as nuns, and being part of like the mob running away from the the British Yakuza. That alone was good enough for me. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. All right. Well, when Cannibal Witches from Hell comes out, I will definitely be promoting that on the channel. And so yeah, Peter, I'm so happy you came to visit us today.
Yeah, my pleasure, man. Yeah, no
And,
problem. No problem at all.
absolutely. And check out. I'll leave all of Peter's info in the description. Go check him out, everybody. And yeah. So other than that, remember to stay spooky. Peace.
Yay!